Hey guys, welcome to another weekly outlook video. I know it's been the first in a very long time, but yeah, it's been a while. It's been a while, but I'm gonna try and get back to things and not waste too much time. So we're gonna start off with the dollar index. On the dollar, looking at the daily chart. Actually, before the daily chart, let's zoom out a little bit more. Maybe say on the monthly time frame. We can see that the previous 2 months gave us a rejection off of this breaker right there. So the time we closed below this low and these two body lows, it became a breaker. I say it's a breaker because we took a high, right? Price ran up, took the high, buy side liquidity swept, then broke lower. Then the next candle here, the next month, which is the month of May, we pushed up into that same breaker, then rejected lower from there. And now we can see even the previous candle closed bearish. Yes, I know that we are still only in the first full week of July, but I believe that we'll still remain bearish for the remainder of the month. My next draw on liquidity is the next swing low that we can find on the left, which is right there at the 94.629 level. So I have that as my next target or my next draw on liquidity, for those wondering what the yellow line is on my chart. On the weekly time frame, we can see that when the previous weekly candle, the NFP week candle closed, we created a weekly gap. For those that cannot see the weekly gap I'm talking about this candlestick's high and that candlestick's low right there. So this space in between is a fair value gap, and in this case it's a bearish fair value gap because we broke lower, right? So this made it a bearish gap. The thing I find more interesting about this bearish gap is that within it, going down to the daily time frame, we have a volume imbalance and a liquidity void, technically speaking, but we have this volume imbalance right here. Notice that between this gap, it's a different type of gap that I'm highlighting right now, but notice that we do not have any candlestick bodies. We only have this wick. We have the tail and we have the top wick of this next candle here. So personally, I am looking to see if dollar can draw up into this point of interest, this gap, this volume imbalance, then we can break lower to look for more bearish price action. Of course, my first target would be the swing low that we have here on the daily, right? The sell side liquidity right here, but going through that, we can target the 94.629 level that we just discussed from a higher time frame. That will be the first sell side liquidity level. Then going through this sell side, we have the lower one. So yeah, this is my expectation on the dollar. I'm not sure what the market is gonna do or what they're going to give us, but that's what I'm looking to see going into this coming week. Moving on, well, before we move on from the dollar, actually, I would like to cover quickly the two main currencies or currency pairs that I typically trade the dollar with, which is GBP USD and Euro USD. So that's the British pound and euro, or fiber and cable. So opening GBP USD, we obviously would be looking for the opposite, right? So we'll look for price to draw lower first, then higher. In this case, going to a higher time frame on GU and zooming out a little bit, we can see that we have those equal highs up there as our final buy side liquidity. But of course, we have multiple targets to the left that we could keep targeting. With that swing high, we have that swing high, we have that swing high, we have this gap over here. Then of course we have the final buy side liquidity. Last week or last few weeks, what has price done? Firstly, we drew down, we pushed down into this weekly BC, this weekly buy side imbalance, sell side inefficiency, right? And for the past couple of weeks, we've actually been supporting higher prices with every weekly gap that we created, we always pushed up higher. So notice all the way from here, from the month of February, on the 24th, we created a gap. Then the month of April, we dipped down into that gap and then pushed higher. So we've been supporting bullish price action, and right now we are rejecting currently from a weekly order block, right? So I'm expecting us to continue breaking higher. The only time I would say that we are probably bearish is when we start disrespecting all these bullish PDRAs, these ones that are supporting price for higher, supporting for higher prices. When they start getting disrespected, maybe and only maybe then that I would start looking for bearish price action, right? But right now we're bullish. I've covered the higher time frame. We don't need to go over this again. So let's go to the lower time frame. On the lower time frame, we can see on the daily chart that we have actually tapped a very sensitive area, in my opinion, an order block right there. So what did price do here on the daily? We came first and took liquidity right there, right? Took sell-side liquidity. We did the same here, a quick manipulation, and now price is returning back into this fair value gap, into a discounted area that we could potentially start looking for buys. Maybe if you're a higher time frame trader, you could have had a position opened already from this order block, putting your stop loss at the swing low and targeting the final buy side liquidity that we were discussing earlier on a higher time frame. This could literally be someone's position out there, right? And there's absolutely nothing wrong with this. Personally, not really much of a swing trader. I do take my trades intra-week, as in within the week or within a day, but not really that much of a longer term trader. Swing trading. So yeah, we could look for potential support for higher prices, but what I would pay more attention to is this bearish gap that we created on the daily chart. So we could possibly see price respect this CB to take that low, the swing low right there, before finally pushing higher. So if you want to be on the safer side, what I would suggest that you do if you're looking for bullish price action on GU is to wait and see if we can disrespect this bearish gap, right? So if we can close above it like so, making this last bearish candle to become a higher probability order block, right? Then we could potentially look for price to return to that order block before continuing higher, right? I don't know if that makes sense. So wait for us to disrespect this CB. How do we disrespect it? By closing above it. And then even better, if we close above this bearish candle right here. If price can close this, the same way that I've highlighted it right there, closing above the bearish candle. Let me use a more solid arrow so it's visible. When we close above it, we could potentially look at the top of the candle or the opening price of that candle to become a higher probability order block for us to start buying. So right now, it's a little bit of a 50-50 case. And the reason I'm saying this is because remember, on dollar, we are looking for a quick sweep of that high, tapping into the volume imbalance before we start selling, right? So we could expect the opposite to happen on GU. We could expect a low to be swept before we start buying. So if you would like to play it safe, rather wait to see a proper confirmation that looks something like this. Anyway, moving on to the final pair, which should be relatively quick, similar to dollar, similar to GBP USD. We're looking for higher prices on these pairs. And to be honest, right now, Euro could be ready. We could be ripe and prepared to start taking off because currently we are within this daily gap. I know it's a very small gap on the daily, but notice how the bodies of this daily gap is still being respected. All these candles, the first one that tapped it, wicked in and rejected away. The very next candle was a very bearish candle, but still did not close below the gap, right? It was still closing within the gap. Then the previous day, Friday, has also supported this gap. So I'm just saying, looking at how strong Euro is compared to pound, we may just see an expansion going into this week from Monday. If And only if price decides not to do any of that, then we could watch out for this weekly gap that we also created, similar to DXY, right? Remember how we had a weekly gap on dollar? We could see price pushing down into this weekly gap before continuing higher, right? Which I actually find most ideal because it will give me a higher time frame PD array that we are supporting for higher prices. And again, if you want to swing, it's easier to swing this because now you could go on your lower time frame. Well, if we find a weekly PD array, if you've watched the Trade Smart series, and of course if you know about time frame alignment, you would know that for us to get a confirmation based off of a weekly PD array, we would need to go to the 4-hour chart. So on the 4-hour chart, we would need to see us tap into this area, this blue area, as we already know what they are. I mean, we already know what the area is based on our weekly chart, right? So when price taps into this weekly gap, I will then look for an hourly confirmation to take buys. I'm not going to blindly take it from here. I would rather wait to see if we can take some sort of liquidity, right? It can be this swing low. This could literally be enough for me to start looking for confirmation for buys. But again, I'm going to watch and see how price plays out. But overall, I'm bullish for now until proven otherwise. That's my expectation on the majors. Now moving to commodities. I am mainly focused on gold because I find it very interesting right now on the, I'm not sure if, I think it's the daily time frame. Yeah, on the daily. I'm not gonna go up a higher time frame because it gets a little bit more complicated. There's a few more stuff that I'll notice if I go on a higher time frame. But yeah, so we took liquidity right there, swept this low, failed to even sweep this low, actually the swing low here on the left. We failed to sweep this low, the one with the yellow line, and price has been expanding bullishly from there. Not sure if that's a real word, but yeah. So I was paying attention to this bearish gap. As we can see, I highlighted it earlier already. I was paying attention to see if we could close above it, and we actually did right there. On Wednesday, the 2nd of July, we closed above this bearish gap. So that gave me sort of a confirmation or an increased reason to be bullish on gold, right? Because now we're disrespecting old bearish PD arrays, and we are now creating, notice what happened, we created a new bullish PD array in the process. So right there, we created a new BC, a bullish fair value gap, a buy side imbalance, sell side inefficiency, for those that want to know what BC is. And then notice that within this same bullish gap, we also have this order block right there. We have a high probability order block. Let's see if I can make it a little bit bolder, maybe even change the color to purple. Right there, the bearish candle that took liquidity. So I am looking for an expansion higher. Yes, I know that we have areas like this, which is a higher time frame rejection block. I'm just gonna delete it for now because I'm really not looking to see that area be supported. But if you're interested to know, it's on the weekly chart. We have this rejection block right there. I'm not gonna go much into it, but I'm still bullish overall, so I'm gonna stick to my bullish bias. Right now, what I'm looking for is the same as DXY, EU, and GU. I'm looking for price to now continue supporting higher prices, right? Remember, we have a bearish gap here that could still be respected. You know, sometimes we could disrespect it and then come back and somehow re-respect it. So my most ideal situation right now would be what I'm looking for on GU, on GBP USD, on pound, which is to see price expand higher. Firstly, right, let's close above this bearish candle, this specific bearish candle. We've currently respected this order block, right? Currently respecting this order block. So if we close above this white candle, it will become a proportion block, right? that's an even higher probability order block. That's the type of order block that we expect price to just tap and react instantly to the upside. So this could be a possible move for next week. This is what I'm looking for, what I'm expecting. But for this to happen, we would need to see a bullish expansion closing above this Thursday candle. Only if and when we close above this Thursday candle that we could look for a retracement to start buying gold to the all-time high. Because yes, we have that external range liquidity right there, but we also have the 3500 psychological level way up there. So that's my expectation, what I would like to see on XAU USD. Other than that, I don't really have much else to cover. The indices like Nasdaq, ES, Nasdaq and S&P 500 have already tapped their all-time highs. So right now at all-time highs, what do? Keep buying until your buys start failing. But I'm not really a big fan of trading all-time highs. So I would rather trade intra sessions or intraday moves, right, than trying to predict something that would happen over the course of a week or course of a month. But yeah, right now we're at the all-time high at on Nasdaq and all-time high on ES. Yes, we could see price maybe start expanding lower to these relative equal lows, but would not put money on that, to be honest. I would not put money on that. Yes, also on YM, we have not tapped its all-time high. YM is the weakest of the three. So I guess if you're looking for something to buy, it could be the Dow, right? Or you could use Dow to project when to stop buying Nasdaq and ES. Not sure. Depending on whatever you trade and how you trade. I'm not here to tell you how to trade anyway. I'm just telling you my expectations for next week. So yeah, same with Russell. We created a weekly gap right here. We're likely going to tap into that weekly gap. Highly likely going to tap into this weekly gap right here. Let me change this back to 1 pixel and change the color back to what we were using before. So right there, we have a weekly busy that we created last week and a very heavy close, very close to the low of the week actually. But if you're an extreme scalper, say on the 5 minutes chart, you could literally scalp to take that sell side liquidity, which is basically tapping into the weekly gap. The thing is, with situations like this though, we are likely going to open and tap into it literally on the Sunday opening price or price action. But yeah, that's all I see. Keep buying until your buys start failing. That's all I have on the indices. Other than that, don't really have anything too clear. I've covered my opinion on gold. I've covered my opinion on dollar and the dollar majors, and I'm going to stick to that. If you have any questions, suggestions, if you have anything you would like me to look at, I am available. Just let me know in the comment section below. And yeah, that's all for now. Take care, good luck, and as always, good trading.